In this new episode of the Dres Ring Space Station, we are gonna land on Dres, we're gonna go on our first surface EVA and also obviously fight against some bugs. Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Pietro and welcome to the fourth episode of the Dres Ring Space Station. Finally, it is the time of landing on the surface of Dres, but unfortunately, also today we are gonna encounter lots of bugs. We left each other the last episodes with me fighting against the impossibility of undocking the lander without the entirety of the crew getting killed, and so we had to restart and try again and decouple the tug stage of the lander, trying to get it away. As you saw there, it was super wobbly and kept on having problems. It's a problem that was known for the last patch. Now with the update that just got released yesterday at the time of recording of this video, apparently these kind of problems with the decouplers have been solved. By the way, you may have noticed that it was in a different docking port with respect to the one in which I docked in the previous episode, and that is because I had to try and dock, undock, redock again, reloading the same save file and trying again and again, and I noticed that docking there and undocking from there did solve the problem of all the crew getting killed. But as you saw there, with the decoupling of the tug stage, that by the way took away also a little part of the engine, like put the engine like 50 centimeters behind my landers, which was kind of weird, and that's why I decided to reload and retry, but that was still killing the crew. I realized that one way to avoid this problem was putting all the crew inside of the lander, then undocking. As you have seen here, we finally achieved it, and then after this undocking, getting finally rid of the tug stage. Here I decided to try and switch the fuel from the tanks of the tug to the tanks of the lander, but the tug's tank were already empty, so there was no monopropellant to transfer. Let's decouple the tug stage, as I said, and then turn around the lander and get ready for the deorbiting maneuver. Obviously, what we are gonna have to do now is activate the Terrier engine that we have installed on our lander, burn in the retrograde direction, so that we are gonna lower our periapsis on the other side of the planet, as you can see here from the map view, and from there getting it at about 50 kilometers. That's a height that is quite close to the surface, that still allows us to time warp at a relatively high velocity, which means that we can fast travel, let's say, all around the surface, searching for a feature of the ground that we want to explore, that we want to land around. Obviously gotten to the periapsis, then we burned again retrograde to lower our apoapsis and make a more or less a circular orbit around Dres, which is what you saw me doing here. Then I decided to go a little lower, since we were still quite high above the surface and it was not so easy to detect the surface features from that height. Getting lower down allows us also to be in an easier orbit from which starting the landing maneuver. Obviously, if we were to start directly from the height of the rings and from there going down to the surface in one single maneuver, that would be risky, because we will have to put our orbit in an intersection path with the ground, which would mean risking to crash there if we were to start our burn maneuver too late, and therefore I prefer to use this approach, which is the real approach. Let's say also the Apollo missions did something like that. I will put the command module and the lunar module in a circular orbit around the surface of the moon, and then from there lower the orbit of the lunar module up to get the height of the periapsis at about 10 kilometers above the surface of the moon, and from there the final descent will start with a retrograde burn, as we are about to start seeing now in the video, and slowly but carefully getting the speed slower and slower until going vertical in the last few hundred meters, and then land on a safe patch of the surface of the moon. So here you can see me time warping after having decided where we were going to land, inside of this very beautiful and big crater here on the surface of Dres, and now we started the re-entry burn. I prefer to do it, as I always say, manually, so I do not ask to the SAS to auto-track the retrograde node, just because in this way I can instead point with the spacecraft a little bit above the horizon, which allows us to reduce the amount of vertical speed going towards the planet that we would obtain. Therefore, what I do is point just a little bit above, so more close to the blue side of the nav ball with respect to the retrograde indicator, and that then slows down horizontally a lot, which is what we want to do because we need to be at a low horizontal speed with respect to the planet, obviously, to not slam it and skip over the surface. But at the same time, I do not start going down, so increasing the vertical speed until I'm not sure that I have a slow enough horizontal velocity, and so that we can slow down in time to land. Therefore, you can see me here staying with my crosshair, let's say, of the pointing of our spacecraft a little bit above the retrograde symbol there on the nav ball, and slowly but surely keep on decreasing the velocity. I don't need to throttle at the maximum rate right now, even if the Terrier engine has just 45 kilonewtons of thrust, which for a spacecraft as the one that we have with a lander can for 4 different kerbals and medium sized, so a 2.5 meter sized medium fuel tank, it's a lot of weight that we have there. But it will be a lot of weight on Kerbin. It's a lot of mass, let's say. But here on Dres, that has a lower gravity with respect to the one of the Man, we have really no problems in slowing down in time to safely land on the surface. You saw, by the way, that I retracted the solar panels just to make it a little more realistic, let's say, since we don't want to risk them getting damaged by, I don't know, some dust being kicked off the surface while we are about to land. Therefore, I just retracted them. I had to extend them because I ran out of electric charge, and therefore the SAS, which is the module that helps me steer around the spacecraft without having to use direction control thrusters, and so not have to use the monopropellant, which is a finite resource, and therefore, yeah, I had to extend them to get electric charge and be able to use it. Instead, here we have enough electric charge that we can just go down to land without needing to accumulate more during this part. So here you can see me, I keep on staying just more to the center of the nav ball, let's say, with respect to the retrograde marker, also because we are coming up on some kind of a ridge, as you may see once I look at the surface of the Dres. Therefore, I need to move a little bit sideways, so in this situation maintain some more horizontal velocity and be pushed towards that direction. I just clicked on the nav ball on the relative to the ground height. We already were relative to the surface for the velocity. Here I had to throttle up a little bit because we were coming up on 300 meters and still going at 30 meters per second, so it was a safe maneuver to slow down a little more. And there you can see that we are exactly coming about to land there on that shadowed place, which is obviously shadowed because the sun is low on the horizon, and that means that there is a little hill there, and so I will go even more vertical to maintain this horizontal velocity and land just perfectly there on the edge of this ridge. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, I hope that I managed the volume correctly. The music is epic. Like, each planet has, for different phases of the flight, for different things that you are doing, a different music, which is fantastic, and I really enjoy this aspect of the game, and I really enjoy the music that I've been discovering going around here on Dres. We are kicking up some dust with respect to what happened in the last episode. This is a way more controlled and way more safe landing. By the way, if you didn't see that, you're gonna find the link to the playlist, to the other videos of the playlist of the DRSS in the description and also in the end cards and stuff. So yeah, make sure to check that out, because when we landed with that space tag, it was very funny. And there we are, about to land, so softly cut starting of the engine. The springs of the landing gear are still a little too soft, and the engine touched down the surface too. Let's say we did an Apollo 15, let's say, since that's what happened also on that mission, that they really landed on the engine. But you know, like, we now have 5 points on which our spacecraft touches the ground, and not just simply 4. So yeah, I guess that's a good thing. And we have the first Kerbal crew landed on the surface of Dres in the DRSS space program. Therefore, just extend again the solar panels to have the power to keep the SAS active and make sure that our spacecraft does not tilt around. And then it's the time to go on an EVA. But guess what? The game decided that my Kerbals cannot go on EVA. I already encountered this problem and I didn't know what caused it, so I just tried to go in the settings and see if there was something, trying to get the Kerbals out from the spacecraft. Clicking on the spacecraft did not work, and so I was like, what should I change? And you're gonna see in 1 second that there is a setting in the gameplay section, which is the max persistent debris. I set it to 0 to have less problems with accumulation of debris that make the game lag, and well, apparently that does not allow Kerbals to go on EVA. I found the answer on Reddit or on a forum of Kerbal Space Program, and they said that instead that's exactly the problem. You need to have to set it to the minimum, which is not 0, which is 6, to then allow Kerbals to go EVA. And so obviously I chose to put out first of all the Kerbals Jebediah, because obviously he's Jeb. He has the privilege of being the first Kerbal to go out and start exploring with his jetpack, flying around the surface of Dres in the low gravity environment. And yeah, we finally could go on EVA, and also we have solved a problem that we encountered some time back. Obviously don't mind the fact that Jeb is floating above the surface. That's totally normal in a true Kerbal Space Program way. Jeb was very tired of all the annoying bugs that he encountered, and that's why he decided to yawn there. And then it was the time for Team C Kerman to follow Jeb on the surface. He was the one in charge of planting the flag, so you can see him here getting in position, decided to plant a flag, wondering what to write on the flag here on the surface of Dres, and that's why he was looking at us in that way. And we decided to write bug after bug, since it took really 2 hours of attempts of undocking, redocking and stuff before we finally succeeded and were able to take a few Kerbals on the surface. Here you may see that there is something wrong with the animation, and I did not realize, like, he moves faster than what the flags comes out, and that's because while planting the flag, while writing stuff on the flag, I decided to hit the period key, and that obviously started the time warp, but apparently the time warp only affects the Kerbals and not the flag. So yeah, there is some trivia for Kerbal Space Program 2. There you saw that the jetpack of Jebediah for some reason stopped, therefore it was Team C going to explore the rock, trying to understand if it is solid or not. There you see, oh, did he land? No, he did not land on the surface of the rock. It's again without colliders as for the environment props that we were used to have in Kerbal Space Program, but it was just funny pretending that he could walk on it instead of just floating and getting inside of this surface feature. Then it was a moment to go and get a few pictures of our Kerbals together with the spacecraft, with the flag. So Team C and Jebediah got together and then tried again to switch to Jebediah and control his jetpack, which did not want to function. And for some reason though, during the jump, Jeb moved a little bit to the side, decided to land more or less on the head of Tim, and then yeah, obviously dance because that's what really Kerbals like to do, dancing on top of other Kerbals. By the way, I did not realize that the eyes of Jebediah were so different in size. Like this Kerbal here of the loading, he doesn't have such a difference in the eyes, but Jebediah does. I don't know if it was like that also in KSP1 or if it's just a new thing. Here I noticed a super cool thing, and it's how they move their arms while they control the jetpack. Like to go up, they rise up the right arm, to go down they put lower the left arm, and instead to steer around they have a yoke on the right hand, which is very, very cool to me. Like I was wondering at the beginning like why he was asymmetrical. I was like, what the heck is going on? And then I realized that it's the jetpack controls. It's, I don't know, like attention to detail, which is very, very cool that we have in this new game. Then it was the time to launch back from the surface of Dres, and so I had to see which one of the various vessels was the space station. I discovered it was combined 4, well, makes sense since it's a space station, so it's a combination of things. It's not default name 5 or default name 6 or whatever. And so I wanted to launch to it. I wanted to rename it from the tracking station, but the game didn't let me. Therefore I tried to give it a name. It's unreadable. It's impossible to see there while you're writing, and then you rename it and it resets itself. But then yeah, it was the time to switch back to the spacecraft, and look at this. It was falling through the surface of Dres. And so I was like, what should I do now? And I tried just to, well, if it passed through while going down, maybe it's gonna pass also while going up, right? Well, no, it didn't work like that. For some reason the physics were working just in one direction, and therefore I killed the entirety of the crew while trying to pass through the surface of Dres to go back and dock to the Dres Ring space station. So we had to reload a save file and start from this one instead. So yeah, launching from the surface of Dres, this time full thrust to minimize the gravity losses, which means that the more time we have to take to get into orbit around a planet, so the more time we have to have an engine running before getting into orbit, we are actually wasting energy against the gravity of the planet, which means that reduces our efficiency and requires us more delta V to get into orbit. For the lineup for this launch, I waited for the target location to be 45 degrees away from the local vertical, and apparently it was definitely not enough. You see that here we got to our apoapsis a lot before that the target got in that position. Therefore I had to struggle a little bit trying to get an orbit that would get us an encounter as fast as possible. Here I packed the solar panels to don't have them get damaged by the dust and by the rocks inside of the rings. Obviously it's all, let's say, role play, it doesn't really matter, but I tried to do that, which was not a good decision, since then I will run out of electric power. Here you see that we put ourselves in a higher orbit with respect to the target to be able to let it catch up to us, since on a lower orbit it's gonna travel faster. And then here the encounters were all messed up. It was showing me that the target was gonna arrive, that we were gonna have a close approach, which was not true because they were already in a lower orbit and in front of me, which I don't know how and why this happened. Like there were some weird things happening with the encounter calculator of Kerbal Space Program 2, and so therefore I had to put myself again in a lower orbit that was intersecting the target orbit, so that at our apoapsis we would get a close encounter. And here you can see that orbit after orbit being lower, we catched up a little bit at a time with our targets. So we had to do some managing. Here the spacecraft was not controllable, therefore I had to deploy the solar panels to get the electric charge needed to have the SAS working, and therefore being able to stabilize and also to turn around without having to wait ages for it to happen. And so going on to the commentary of what was happening here with the rendezvous attempt, well, it was very bad. I am not proud at all of how I managed to do it, but let's say that after what happened with the spacecraft getting destroyed thousands of times, the Kerbals getting killed, me having to reset, reload, retry again and again, I couldn't be bothered to try and make it better and having to reload another save file to get into a better orbit and get a better lineup for the rendezvous and stuff. So yeah, we just went eyeballing it a little bit here. You see that I'm getting further out and then getting back closer and trying to make the lineup for an intersection with the target in the next orbit, which is what you could see me do there. So using the reaction control thrusters with H and N to burn a little bit prograde, a little bit retrograde, but not too much, so that I could fine-tune the distance. There I ran out of electric charge, and so it was kind of hard to control the spacecraft. Therefore I had, even if we were inside of the rings, to deploy a solar panel. For the next time I'm gonna make a nuclear lander too, if there's gonna be another nuclear lander, and if the problems with the undocking are gonna be solved, which, spoiler, yeah, they have been solved by the new patch, so we can finally undock without killing the entirety of the crew. And here you can see our 4 kerbals going back to docking to the Dres ring space station inside an amount of debris which is incredible just to see, and getting back to their fellow kerbal that they left inside of the space station waiting for them to arrive. And so with this we can bring this 4th episode to an end. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoyed me fighting against the bugs and the Kraken in KSP2, which probably is something that it's not gonna end for quite some time. And if you got until the end, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot. I hope that you may consider maybe leaving a like and subscribing to help support the channel and stay alive in the algorithm. So yeah, there's gonna be the link in the description for the playlist of the other episodes of this series. There's gonna be pop-ups on the screen for other Kerbal Space Program 2 videos. And yeah, thanks again for watching. I wish you a good day. Catch you all guys next time. Bye bye.